I guess it is a happy June 10th PSWs and our friends here in Ontario. Welcome to the OPSWA Live. This is our 15-year anniversary coffee and conversation live. I am Miranda Romanovich, CEO of the Ontario PSW Association and founder, and I am joined by Ian De Silva, my Chief Operating Officer. And we're coming to you guys live today. I know normally it's Fridays at 11 o'clock, and we were a bit late due to technical difficulties this morning. But we're here, and we're here to talk about 15 years of the Ontario PSW Association.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. 15 whole years.
15 years. I know. I think I'm still in some shock that we've been doing this for 15 years. I mean, time flies when you're having fun, or you're at war,
Exactly right.
whichever, or at war, whichever it is, right?
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you that are watching, June 10th, 2010, the Ontario PSW Association was created. I signed on the dotted line to incorporate OPSWA. And it's actually kind of funny how that kind of got started. Was we actually started in 2007 as a totally different entity called PSW Canada. And through our conversations with media, the public, and the government at that time, which wasn't very high level conversations, but they were enough for us to realize that the government wasn't going to do it. They weren't going to regulate the PSWs. And so we decided that we were going to do it. If they weren't going to do it, we were going to do it. I remember working in long-term care as a PSW, and this was not my first career. And I realized really quickly that there was no voice, no platform, no advocacy, no recognition, no respect for the role of the PSW, going all the way back to 2010. Yeah.
It was a hidden force. No,
Yes.
it's like you just weren't like they were so hidden the PSW that they were just taken for granted. And
Yeah. We were
that,
just always there.
yeah,
The invisible worker.
exactly.
The invisible worker. Yeah. And so, but I remember Ian, and it's funny because Ian and I were actually talking about this morning. I remember in 2010 when we founded it and came running out of the gate with a logo and a website and, high hopes. And we thought, oh, this is it. It's just going to take off from here. And everything we've ever wanted is going to happen now. And boy, were we wrong.
Just a little. Took a few more than the first year and a logo. Yeah, no, it's been a struggle, but yeah, nothing's easy in this world, and we've learned that. I think is that, but when you're fighting for something that's worth fighting for, that affects, and honestly, it's going to affect everyone who's watching and isn't. Um, it's worth fighting for, and it's been a really captivating time to be a part of it. Actually, since I joined, what, 8 years ago?
Years ago.
I joined halfway through the battle, and yeah, it's been interesting, and you see so many. I think I find it interesting as a guy looking at this coming in, that you see there's so much dependency that we just simply assume, and this is a second that women and PSWs are just going to do the work and be happy to do it and be good little PSWs in you. It's not really the reality, is it?
No, no, it's not the reality. And when I became a PSW in 2006, I mean, my entire class was women, was females, and now we're seeing more and more men come into the field, which I think is absolutely fantastic. We need them. I mean, I could have killed for a male PSW when I was working in mental health as a PSW because I mean I'm 5'2". I know I seem to come taller. I get that all the time, but I'm 5'2" on a good day, and it I would have killed for that strapping guy to come on in and help me out with some of the residents that I used to have to take care of.
Yeah, and they're actually quite they've always been in care provide in provision men for such a long time, and it's something that we've seen a lot of in the last probably the few years. We're seeing a growing sense of actually men having trouble securing positions despite that demand, and there is this new prejudice about I don't want a man coming in to do care, but
Oh, I remember back in 2010 when we started this, and like I said, our heads were in the clouds, and I had quite a mouth on me back then. I do now, but it's a little bit more professional and politically correct when
be
I
good.
talk. You learn over
You
the
learn,
years
you
what
learn.
you should and should not say. You play the chess game with the government, and that's what we do every day, all day. But I remember when we started this, and there was such a there still is, but I wouldn't say as much because a passion for OPSWA, and there is still that passion for OPSWA, but I think on a different playing field. I remember we didn't really get a lot of traction when it came to government and official recognition of PSWs. I think the first government, I'm going to get dinged for this, but the first government that truly recognized the PSW, and it wasn't even government, the first party to recognize PSWs, at least in Ontario, back in 2016, was the PCs.
Yeah.
Progressive Conservative Party, and their health critic at the time was Jeff Urich, who is a pharmacist by trade. Unfortunately, is no longer working in his role as an MPP and minister, but he really saw a lot of stock in OPSWA and saw what we were trying to do, and that's when Patrick Brown was the leader of the PCs, and I'll never forget getting all those meetings. Like, I lived at Queen's Park. Like, we lived at Queen's Park. It was a very busy time. I never left Queen's Park. I had a parking spot. I still wish I did have a parking spot there, but I had a parking spot. We were there so much that all the guards knew us and security and all that. We just walk in and out as we please because we were in meetings all the time. And then Patrick Brown, a real historic point was Patrick Brown put OPSWA in their election platform.
Yeah. That was the moment. Yeah, I remember.
That was a huge movement for us. That was monumental and historic for PSWs and for OPSWA, because that was official recognition of the role of the professional association, but also PSWs.
Yeah.
Like, PSWs were never recognized before that. I banged on so many doors. I met with so many at the time, the government that was power, the Liberals at that time, and there was no interest whatsoever in even recognizing PSWs at that time.
It was a profession. It was a profession that was, as we said, hidden. It was an appendage of the nurse. They were part of the nursing scrub uniform. If they were in scrubs, people thought they were a nurse. I was in hospital before joining OPSWA. Most of the people at my bedside, with the exception of those providing medications, were PSWs. I was not aware of that until after I left and realized these people don't have these PSWs. We're doing most of the work. So interesting. It's interesting. I think now
Interesting.
we're trying to get them is make sure they're equal parts of the interprovincial care team. Yeah.
Well, and they are. And I remember, there was a the Minister of Health way back in the day, and her name was Deb Matthews. And I'm sure a few of you guys would recognize that name. And Deb Matthews actually is a wonderful human being. I met her numerous times. We had our first conference, one of our first conferences at Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto. I think it was our first one we'd ever had. And Deb Matthews came out, and she came out to talk to the PSWs, and she came out to to praise the job that OPSO was doing. But it has been one hell of a battle. It has been and continues to be one hell of a battle because if you think about this, many associations, I mean, the other association that we could really compare ourselves to, Ian, just had a 100-year anniversary, and
Yes.
that's the nurses.
Congratulations to that. That's
Oh
amazing.
yeah, a huge milestone for the nurses. But the
Absolutely.
nursing profession in itself has changed and evolved over those 100 years. Oh, like massively, to the point where what Florence Nightingale was doing all the way back then is actually what PSWs do now.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's all bedside care is what the PSW does. I mean, that encompasses so many different things, but that's what PSWs do. And so, for us to have started an association by ourselves from the ground up, um, is actually funny because my dad, kudos to my dad. My dad actually paid for the incorporation of OPSWA back in 2010 because I was a working PSW and I was dead broke. And he said to me, "I want to see what you can do." And he's proud of me. He's proud of me now. But I mean, it always, it's like my son Catcher made a video. I don't know if some of you guys know Catcher. He's my son. He is an advocate with the MHCS, which is a division of OPSWA, and he did a video this morning because we were talking about it. And Catcher was 6 years old when I started OPSWA. He's now 21.
Young man.
I feel very old right now at that point. But it's been interesting to talk to my kids and talk to people that we've, been partnered with, or members that have been around since 2010, that, the evolution of the professional association. I mean, this thing was being run by a bunch of us that had no idea what the heck we were doing. We had to learn on the fly. And I was still working as a PSW for many years after we formed the association. And Ian, when you came on, I wasn't even being paid.
No, you're a volunteer. I wasn't so nice, but
But
it's
it's
it,
been amazing.
it's been amazing. But can I just talk about back to the Florence Nightingale thing and
Yeah.
back to that connection there? So one thing I think PSWs really want to embrace is the carrying on and the continuation of that nursing tradition that started 170 years ago in the Crimean War, which many of you probably none of us have any living memory of. So it's ancient times. But the continuing on of that professional that professional status is what we are currently doing. The one thing that we realize, and this is where at least I've realized this since I've joined OPSWA, is it's not so much about, while it is a lot about the PSWs, at the end of the day, the PSWs are the voice of the patient. So when we're
Mhm.
asking for PSW respect, it really is, we need patient focused care is at the end of the day is what we're looking for. And I think since the OPSWA has been founded, there is that identity now that the patients can have a certified PSW on their bed at their bedside. This is a separate professional that does separate duties, and they can ask them of separate things. They are their primary conduit to the rest of the healthcare system, and I think that's something the officers should be proud of, and the PSWs should be proud of. Is that by elevating the PSWs, you're giving the patient a better shot at better care. My opinion, but that's my opinion.
We're kind of biased too,
Maybe
but
a bit. I mean,
a little bit, but I mean, but it is
true.
the truth. It
It
is
is.
the truth, and that is such a good point. Is that the PSW role, the PSW duties have been around for as long as the nurses, because
Yes,
the nurses used to do this role. But like we said, and in some cases they still do this role, but it's
absolutely.
extremely less than what it used to be, because now they're so reliant on the PSW for that bedside care, so they can do their jobs
Which is
as
different
well.
than it was. Now, nurses are moved into clinical diagnostics, specialized care. It's a very specialized job. Doctors and physicians have moved. You see the whole transition of titles shifting. I don't want to say up, it's becoming more specialized as per their role. So, um, yeah, the PSWs will continue to play a very important role in the delivery of healthcare in Ontario and Canada. They are the future of front bedside nursing in this country
Oh,
and
in the world.
the world.
I mean,
Yeah,
in our conversations, we've had conversations with the Australia Commission of Victoria for Disability Workers, and you really see this evolution of the frontline healthcare worker really taking effect and grabbing hold on an international stage as well, which is really interesting. So, it's going to be. I mean, if you think about the last 15 years of OPSWA, I mean, oh my God, it's been a blur. I said this morning to Carly, who's our marketing director, and I said, this association, since the beginning, there's been, I went through a divorce, blood, sweat, and tears, a new marriage, hence the Farrier than the Romanovic, just for everyone watching. And, but there's been such huge successes. And we've also been through a pandemic. And I don't want to take that away, because the pandemic really put PSWs on the map. I mean, OPSWA, we've done our due diligence. The amount of media that I've done, haven't done a lot over the last few years, which I'm thankful for, to be honest. But, the amount of media that we did, I mean, I remember back in oh my God, 2011, 2012, I was approached by W5, CTV's W5 and Sandy Ronaldo, and they were asking, is there a ratio in long-term care homes? And I said, there's no ratio in long-term care homes, and it's actually up to the individual home as to how many PSWs, or how many residents a PSW can handle. And they went undercover into long-term care, and actually, we were the ones that broke that news, that was the actual truth, because homes were actually telling families, oh, there's a ministry ratio. There's a ministry ratio. There never was, nor is there a
no,
ministry ratio to this very day. So that was kind of our first kind of breakout into it. Cause like I said, back in the day, I kind of had a huge mouth, and I just kind of said, like I said, like I do. And then came CBC Marketplace. And, that was another huge breakthrough, like that we were having live conversation with the truth behind the scenes. And I just want to give kudos to the journalists that did do these stories back in the day, and those stories are still very relevant to
Yeah,
healthcare.
completely.
Excuse me, I have allergies. So I mean, and kudos to them for making that live and making that happen and putting us front and center and making the PSW an important aspect of the healthcare team. Um, Go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Thank you. Because this attention is vital because at the end of the day, it protects all of us. It's a better system we're trying to build and it's a better care that we're ultimately going to give. There was a question that came through, and I think we should address it with regards to titles because this is really what the OPSWA was about was protection of the title for PSW. And one of the things that we're seeing now is in Canada, there's about 76 titles that can define the PSW role. So PSWs have to compete with lots of different titles, and this is no different in Ontario, which is winning one of our biggest stones in our shoe because it creates an undercurrent of it creates risks to patient care. So we have a question about someone who's been working as a PSW for 10 years, their certificate is 10 years old, and suddenly their employer says, it's too old, we can't recognize it. These are the types of things that the OPSWA is really looking to fight in the next, I'm not going to say 15 years because I won't, I don't hope to be fighting
Not
this for
going to
15
stand
years for
for
this one.
15 years of it.
But
No, no.
our next battle is really to protect the integrity of those graduates who've been a part of the association and who have not, because you've put your time in, and especially those who have been working since they've graduated, who are now being told you are no longer qualified for your job. That will be a focus. So just to the individual asking questions, we are addressing that. It is part of a larger strategy. So just an FYI.
And if you want, you can actually go back a couple of lives that Ian and I did on a coffee and conversation probably about a month or so ago. And
Yes.
we actually talked about the legacy pathway with the HESCAPOA. And I mean, we love the HESCAPOA. We truly do. We love their mission. We love what they're moving forward for. Looking forward to welcoming in their new CEO, Trevor Lee. And having that good relationship with them because we are health system partners and we do have to work together and we do work together. However, they have a pathway that's called the legacy pathway, and this is where these issues are starting to come to fruition. Where, if you graduated before 2013, is it 2013? 2013 or
Caught me on that one. It's one
2014,
of those days. We'll
one of
confirm all
those dates that
information.
your employer can basically make you go back to school to become a PSW if they don't want to sign off on you working as a PSW. And after I think it's July 1st, 2027,
They're gonna.
um,
It's
is when
2027.
when that grandfathering period ends. And if you haven't been grandfathered at that point, you'll have to go back to school to become a PSW. I don't agree with this. I absolutely don't not agree with this legacy pathway, and we will be fighting this pathway because I myself am a very proud 2006 Mohawk College graduate of the PSW program, and that would strip me of my certificate.
Yeah.
And I worked really hard for that certificate, and that's not fair. That just
No.
because I'm an executive role, that I can't hang on to my certificate. So
Inappropriate. Yeah.
we can get more into it, but it's a happy day today. It's the
All right.
15th
Yeah.
year
It was a question
anniversary.
that came up. So
No,
we are
oh
looking at that in the future, and yeah, no, and it's a happy day. So what's the other happiness that we've had, Miranda? What's
my
else?
gosh, we've had so much happiness. Um, oh my gosh. I mean, we were the ones that put PSWs on the map, and I'm going to take that credit. We were the ones that truly put PSWs on the map because, if you're talking 5 years ago, 8 years ago, nobody knew what a PSW was.
Mhm.
Like it was always like, oh, so you're a nurse. Well, no, we're not a nurse, we're a PSW. And in our awesome partnership with the Doug Ford government, we've actually been able to really get that messaging out there and really convey it because I remember in the beginning of COVID, and Ian's gonna remember this, that remember when the premier used to do his lives every single day and they'd go live and talk and everything.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in the
Yes.
beginning, he'd always say doctors, nurses, and healthcare
Work.
workers. And I lost my and I got on the phone with the premier's office and said, it's doctors, nurses, and PSWs. You have to say PSWs because you guys were so absolutely essential to the to what happened. I
Everything.
mean,
Yeah.
like to long-term care homes, to the home care situations. I mean, suddenly PSWs were essential and are on the map. And that has still continued growing. I mean, it's been historic funding that this government has put into PSWs, and that's been because of our partnership and our relationship with this government on many different angles. So it's been a real big success
It's been, yes,
in that aspect. But
and I,
but we don't have to agree with everything they do because we
no, of
don't,
course not.
and we still have mountains to move with them.
But going back, yeah, we do. But just one thing I want to say back about with regards to COVID, we have to give a long overdue shout out to the international nursing community during the COVID that really stepped forward at a time when the Native community, a lot of them stepped back. And we have always been one of the first people to say how incredibly moving it was to see people from another country stepping forward to support this country at a time when we needed it so badly.
Goosebumps.
Their
Yeah,
treatment since then, however,
has been absolutely
has
terrible.
been absolutely ridiculous. So just for records, we've had there have been parts of Ontario which relied heavily on this group that we owe an enormous debt to. But once the COVID was over, that group was immediately sanctioned as being no longer qualified, and they were moved out. So we've seen a lot of issues with prejudice in lots of part of Ontario. So for those of you who think we're living in a post-racist society, we are not. But it's something
Unfortunately
that we're
not.
going to continue to fight, and we're really it's a concern. But kudos to everyone. I also want to do a shout out to our longtime supporter in the North, Mr. Chris Horde. Hello, Chris. Always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Who doesn't
we've
know?
had some, you know what, over the years, we've had some amazing members that have always stuck by the association and just have been absolutely diehard. The first name that comes to my mind is Holly Martin.
Holly
So
Martin.
Holly, if you watch this, Holly's been a member of ours since 2013 and continues to be. We've had members since 2010. It's this is, I mean, the reason why I created OPSWA back in the day was because there was no voice and because there was no community for us to be a part of. We were kind of all segregated into different places, and we didn't know where to go to find information. And that's truly why this was started, was because there was nowhere for us to go. There was nowhere for us to reach out and talk to our colleagues and really come together and understand that what we're going through is something that someone else is going through and that we're not alone. And that was my biggest thing, was that we're not alone. Because I will tell you, when I graduated from Mohawk and I went right out into the field, I was in home care and long-term care, hired right out of the bat, and I felt so alone. I felt so alone. I did not understand how it worked. I did not understand, a lot about the field, and I had nobody to reach out to in order to gain that information. And so that was one of the real kind of push points of starting OPSWA, was to have that community and have that, where these students and even PSWs, sometimes veteran PSWs, don't know the answer to certain questions, that they have a place they can come to, and no judgment, no judgment zone, and that will help them.
Absolutely. And just to highlight that element, we have a chat function on our webpage. So if you do have questions, these are just anonymous. We don't know who you are. So feel free to ask at your leisure. Just sign it to that part of it.
And another thing that's really cool, my husband just snuck in here and gave this to me, but um, in a celebration for our 15-year anniversary, the association, anybody that buys a lanyard today or gets a membership today, okay, will receive a limited edition. I don't know if everyone can see this. It is a little bunny rabbit.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah.
And it is a little bunny rabbit with the OPSWA on the bum with 15 years. It is a keychain. We're only making 100 of these. That's it. Once we make them, they're never going to be ever done again. And so this is a limited edition one that you can have and you can tote around, and one day they'll be worth some money. So make sure to get on that today. If you are not a member yet, I'm going to make the pitch. It's our 15-year anniversary. If you're not a member yet, make sure to go to www.opswa.ca. Check out everything that we've done as an association. If you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to reach out.
And please note also that we are the Ontario PSW Association. I can't remember what we were called, right? Isn't that awful? We're the Ontario PSW Association. We represent personal support workers, but we also represent all workers that fall under the NOC code 44101. So this includes home care workers, developmental service workers, anyone that provides personal care. If you're looking for support questions, we are here for you and for the people that you care for. So do not hesitate to reach out to us, and we want to salute all the services that everyone's been doing.
Absolutely. I mean, Ontario healthcare right now is, it's a minefield. There's a lot of changes that are happening. There's a lot of unsavory players perhaps that are in there, but just keep your head down, keep your head up more so, and be proud of what you do as a PSW. I mean, I've really seen, and Ian, you can attest to this, we've seen PSWs grow over the last 15 years. And my God, there's some real powerful PSWs out there that really truthfully are in it for the right reasons and have made massive amounts of differences across the province of Ontario. I also want to point out as well that we are a chapter of the Canadian Support Workers Association. So we also are national as well. For those of you that do not know, or if you see CanSWA pop up every once in a while, that's what that is. But if you become a member today, if you buy a lanyard today, you get this limited edition keychain. It's so freaking cool. I wish I could hold it up better, but I can't. It is so abs. Look at the bum moves. Like it's so cute. Absolutely cute. Make sure I'm gonna grab one. Probably grab 10 for
I'm gonna ask if I can have one. I'd like to reserve one for Jen, who was Jen Atchek, who was did every day did supports during the COVID, trying to raise everyone's spirits. She did that for a year, so I'm definitely gonna save some for her.
Absolutely.
Huge
We'll
shout
put
out
one
to you, Jen.
aside. Yeah.
Natasha again, Natasha, Jen,
Natasha
all
Bell.
and all
All
the
of
rest of
them.
you who are amazing people that came out during the COVID. It's well done. We
We
really are.
can't forget about it. It's
Yeah, we don't
etched
forget
into
about
our
you.
brains, and as it's short of being tattooed on us, really, truthfully. It's something that we will never forget, and nor will we let the public forget
And
that this happened.
thank you for starting this, Miranda. Well done. Well done.
Thank you, Ian. I can't believe it's been 15 years. My children are now almost 17 and 21. So it's been a ride. It's been
Yeah.
a ride, but I just want to say thank you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you
Thank
to
you, everyone.
all of the PSWs across the province of Ontario who put your faith in me, who put your faith in OPSWA, who stood by us through everything that we've gone through over the last 15 years. I'm getting emotional. It has been a ride. So thank you so, so much. Here's to 15 years more. We're going to keep going because I want to hit that 100-year mark. I might be long gone, but I want to hit the 100-year mark with OPSWA. So thank you to everyone. Remember,
Thank
if you
you.
are not a member, join up. It's as low as $19.99 a month. You can become a member of the association and be protected and be supported and just be celebrated every single day. So www.opswa.ca. Thank you very much, Ian.
Thank you very much, Miranda.
All right, guys, take care. And we're going to say now, OPSWA out.